Hey everybody, it's me, Timmy Flyersguy, and welcome to today's edition of Classic Flyers Theater with me, Timmy Flyersguy. Today's episode we are going to continue the Flyers rivalry series. In today's episode, we're going to take a look back at the episode of NHL and look back at NHL rivals between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Boston Bruins. Probably one of my favorite rivalries because the Flyers' success started against the Bruins. And that really started the rivalry out very well. So, in this episode, we're going to take a look back at NHL rivals, Flyers, Bruins. I hope you all enjoy this episode. Let's go Flyers.
Let's go first to the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Flyers and Bruins.
O'Reilly and Schultz. They are squared off.
There was no turning of any cheek.
It's like two Mack trucks driving into each other.
The Bruins have won it 4 straight over the Flyers.
Love the Bruins.
The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
We won our first cup against them.
And we're ready to play hockey. Game 6 of this tremendously exciting Stanley Cup Championship Series.
When the Philadelphia Flyers and the Boston Bruins squared off in the 1974 Stanley Cup Final, they were playing for more than Lord Stanley's Cup. History and tradition were firmly at stake. The Bruins were part of the NHL's establishment, a charter member of the league's glorious Original Six. The Flyers, meanwhile, were the next-generation rebels who quickly became the face of the league's massive expansion that took place in 1967.
The Philadelphia Flyers, one of the 6 new expansion teams that will be taking part in the National Hockey League once the flag goes up October the 11th.
Philadelphia's rise as an NHL power was sudden, but it never may have taken place without a little help when the NHL expansion draft was held.
The Bruins were really an important part of the Flyers right at the beginning because the Flyers took Bruins players in the expansion draft. One was Joe Watson, but even more importantly was the goalie, Bernie Parent.
In the spring, 1967, a good friend of mine comes up to me and said, "Hey, you just got drafted." I said, "Billy?" I said, "By who?" He said, "Philadelphia." I said, "Philly?" I said, "Where's Philly at?"
Parent would eventually get to know his new Philadelphia surroundings. During that time, his former team would become king of the NHL's Hill.
Bobby Orr behind the net to Sanderson. Orr! Bobby Orr! Scores from the Boston Bruins! Have won the Stanley Cup!
Everybody knew the Boston Garden for the parquet floor, but the heartbeat underneath that parquet floor was the ice.
It was all Bruins. Someone told me we were on one channel, and the 10-time world champion Boston Celtics were opposite, and it was like 95-5 in ratings.
And after beating the Rangers in the 1972 final, the Bruins owned the Stanley Cup for the second time in 3 seasons. Boston bravado was matched only by its brawn.
They were the big bad Bruins. One time they were beating us about 6-2 in the third period, and Sanderson and Johnny McKenzie went by our bench laughing. "And having fun tonight, boys?"
And Hodge gets in a right hand. And another. And another.
I used to say, Johnny McKenzie could put the initials on your forehead, JM, before you knew what happened with his stick.
Boston was ready and willing to take on all comers. That included an expansion team determined to match the big bad Bruins, punch for punch.
Schultz grabbing a hold of Hextall's hair now. Schultz trying to get him at long range so he can start pumping the uppercut.
We weren't well liked. I mean, we played a pretty tough brand of hockey. I didn't think we played dirty. We just didn't take anything from anybody.
Dave the Hammer Schultz embodied the toughness of the Flyers. But it was Philly's captain, Bobby Clarke, who became the ringleader of the aptly named Broad Street Bullies.
You did not touch a curly hair on that man's head without the fear of retribution from the roughest, toughest team in the history of the National Hockey League.
And by 1974, just 7 years into their existence, the Flyers had found their formula for success. With their victory over New York, Philly became the first expansion team to win a playoff series over an Original Six franchise. To win hockey's holy grail, they'd have to defeat another one, this time the team from Boston.
The Boston Bruins were as bad as them all, the big bad Bruins.
Put your head on this side. That's it. That's all, Dan. That's all, Dan.
My God, this ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around.
Now they're yelling they want Schultz. And Schultz has come on.
A lot of people thought that the Flyers teams were the barbarians at the gate.
Schultz continues to flail away with the right hand.
The Flyers had the name the Broad Street Bullies, but the Bruins were every bit as vicious before that.
And when the two blue-collar franchises battled in the 1974 Stanley Cup, the team from Boston was the prohibitive favorite in search of a third championship in 5 seasons.
The odds were tremendous against us to win.
When I came to Philadelphia, I met Chuck Newman, a guy that had been covering the Flyers, and he told me that when they went into that series, he picked the Bruins in 3. That's how much people didn't expect this to happen.
Game 1 would be played in the Boston Garden, a house of horrors for the guests from Philadelphia, who had won just one time on the famed Garden Ice, dating back to their expansion season of 1967.
They were still arrogant and cocky and thought they would handle us pretty easily.
And when Bobby Orr scored late in Game 1, history held form.
What a blast by Bobby Orr!
And it appeared Game 2 would have a similar ending. But with under a minute to play, an unexpected hero emerged for the Flyers.
Centering pass. Dupont, he scores! Dupont scores and throws it up!
Andre Moose Dupont sent the game into overtime. From there, it was the Flyers' captain's time to shine.
Flat. Tried to Clark. Shot! Oh! Rebound! Score! Bobby Clark scores! Scores the game winner!
Game 2 represented the first time that in a final, a non-Original Six team had beaten an Original Six team.
The Flyers took momentum from Game 2 back to the Philadelphia Spectrum. And behind the spectacular play of goaltender Bernie Parent, Philly won both Games 3 and 4. Now up 3 games to 1, the new kids on the block stood 60 minutes from their first championship.
Or just took over.
Back for Orr!
No matter what you did, you weren't going to be able to stop them that night.
The Big Bad Bruins flexed their muscles in Game 5, forcing the series back to the Spectrum for Game 6.
Wow, you know, there was a lot of pressure on us that day. I mean, here we were. We did not want to go back to Boston for Game 7.
And Philadelphia head coach Fred Shero sensed the moment. As would be his tradition, he took to the blackboard in the Flyers' dressing room and left a message for his team.
Win today, and we will walk together forever.
Win today, we will walk together forever.
And as they stood together before Game 6, the Flyers were pulling out all the stops, including an appearance by an unexpected good luck charm. Philly had a remarkable 36-3-1 record when Kate Smith's version of God Bless America was played at the Spectrum.
It would become a talisman, a good luck charm for the Flyers. And finally, for Game 6, with the chance to win the Cup on home ice, they brought out Kate Smith.
Smith dazzled with her performance. The home team then dazzled on the ice.
Shepard, McLeish controls to Dupont. Dupont throws it and scores!
Rick McLeish's first period goal was all Parent needed in shutting out the high-powered Bruins offense.
Shoot! Big save by Bernie Parent on a low pass from high.
1-0. The crowd's going crazy. And Bobby Orr gets the puck. With 10 seconds to go.
Shoots it down the ice. Watt makes the save.
I'm looking at the clock.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
People talk about it still this day, how important that was to the city of Philadelphia.
This is the arrival of the expansion teams, the original expansion teams.
As the first non-original six team to win the Stanley Cup, the torch of tough guy hockey was officially passed and further validated the following season when the Flyers repeated as champions. Broad Street now had 2 titles, a reputation to live up to, and the challenge to take on the rest of the NHL.
And here's O'Reilly moving in on Schultz. And there they go. O'Reilly and Schultz.
Terry, the Tasmanian Devil O'Reilly, may have gotten the best of Dave Schultz, but Philly returned the favor in the 1976 NHL semifinal, ousting Boston in 5. 1 round later, Montreal would end the Flyers' 2-year reign of terror. By the next season, the Flyers would get knocked out of the postseason by a new force to be reckoned with, Don Cherry's Lunch Pail Athletic Club.
You know, when you're playing a Saturday afternoon game in the Boston Garden, you probably didn't sleep very well the night before. You know, you had to play against Wayne Cashman and Terry O'Reilly and John Wensink and Stan Jonathan, and the list goes on and on.
The Bruins, we are the toughest team probably in the history of the sport.
Here we go. Now we're getting it. Richmond and Jonathan. What a fight.
Boston and Philadelphia would meet again in the 1978 NHL semifinal, their 4th matchup in 5 seasons. Once again, the Bruins sent the Flyers home for the summer.
Going in, shoots, scores, and it's 5-3 Boston. It looks like it's just about it for the Philadelphia Flyers.
The Broad Street bully era was over, and 78 was kind of their last hurrah.
Right now, I don't feel like coaching. Again.
3 weeks after losing to the Bruins, Fred Shero called it quits. Shero was gone. So too were the on-ice battles between 2 rugged franchises. But this rivalry would be renewed in the 21st century.
Tremendous New Year's Day scene at Fenway Park.
To see those two, it was the perfect setting.
I overheard one of the Bruins fans yell at one of the Flyers fans, "Thanks for coming, Philly. Thanks for coming up."
When the Flyers and Bruins shook hands at the end of their 1978 playoff series, they had combined for 8 Stanley Cup appearances and 4 championships in the decade of the 1970s. The next time they would share the NHL's biggest stage together, they took this rivalry outside.
Tremendous New Year's Day scene at Fenway Park to watch the Bruins and the Flyers.
I remember waking up in the morning, felt like another Christmas.
James Taylor sang the anthem. The stealth flew overhead. The place was jammed.
And before this generation of hockey heroes dropped the puck, the Fenway faithful honored a legend and villain of the past.
Bobby Orr and Bobby Clark back together on the same ice.
And for a moment, 2010 felt like 1974 all over again.
When we went to take the ceremonial face-off, the soldier was dropping the puck. So they said to the soldier, "Watch that damn Orr, he's going to whack you on the hands."
It was a reminder of what once was, something Dan Carcillo and Sean Thornton would try and emulate.
Daniel Carcillo and Sean Thornton, predictable combatants under the Green Monster.
Carcillo and Thornton throw down in the Winter Classic in the friendly confines of Fenway Park, the shadow of the Green Monster, and as you can imagine, it was bedlam inside the stadium.
But not as loud as the roar when the game was decided in overtime.
Taking it is Bergeron, nicely able to step away. Long run in front, they score!
That was definitely a special moment, you know. The cherry on top of Sunday was definitely the fact that we won in overtime.
The Flyers and Bruins would shake hands and go their separate ways until exactly 4 months later when the two teams would meet in the Eastern Conference semifinal.
You get in a series, get a leg up on your opponent. Unfortunately for us, it did not happen. We lost game 1 in overtime.
The Bruins would also win Game 2 and headed to Philadelphia with a 2-0 series lead. The Flyers were desperate, however, to try and make a stand.
Krejci, look out! Richards lowers the boom on him.
I remember I was sitting on the bench, probably in the middle of the bench, so I remember exactly. I was right in front of me at the blue line.
It was a big hit at the far blue line on Krejci. However, I didn't have a chance to really enjoy the big hit because I got scored on about 4 seconds later.
Closing in, chance here, backhand, score!
Even though they scored on the play, it was a big loss for the Boston Bruins.
You could tell it hurt David right away, and that was a big loss for us, for sure.
He nailed David Krejci. He wallpapered him, and that knocked Krejci out of the series.
Despite Krejci's injury, the Bruins won Game 3 convincingly and stood 1 win away from a series sweep.
I remember after we're down 3-0, I was talking to Joey Mullen after the game. He goes, gee, I actually think we're going to come back here. And I go, you know what, Joe, I have the feeling too.
Well, the Bruins are hurt now. Flyers are getting healthy. Simon Gagne had been out with a broken foot, and he came back to the lineup for Game 4.
Gagne and the Flyers were just 40 seconds away from securing their first series win.
Bergeron to the front, wide open, Recchi! He scores! Recchi ties it!
I thought that was definitely what we needed, giving us the momentum to head into overtime, feeling good about ourselves, but we decided otherwise.
Mike Richards spins it late, got a couple walking in. One more Gagne! He scores! Simon Gagne! The Flyers survive and force Game 5!
You lose Game 4 in overtime, a little bit of momentum starts to change a little bit. You know, they start to get a little bit of hope.
But clinging to a 1-goal lead in Game 5, adversity would once again strike the Flyers.
Ryan Boucher is hurt. He threw the glove off. Play is stopped. This does not look good.
I couldn't get my legs out from under me and ended up, oddly enough, spraining both knees. And unfortunately, that was it for me in that series.
Enter Michael Leighton, making his first appearance in 21 games.
Lucic to the puck, winds it, fires, save, Leighton, rebound. He makes the save on Chatan.
Leighton's 14 saves preserved the shutout and kept the Flyers season alive.
And so we are ready. Game 6.
I did not broadcast the series, but I was watching it. And you keep thinking, can history repeat itself? I mean, is that possible?
Briere's pass block, back to Briere. Shot, he scores!
Energized with a 2-goal lead, the Flyers goalie turned in another unexpected stellar performance.
Short-handed breakaway, saved by Leighton.
Michael Leighton's 30 saves helped Philly even the series up.
Flyers win this series of Game 7.
To be up 3-0, there just doesn't seem to be a way you can lose that series. Going into Game 7, they had all the momentum.
I would have bet the house, the cottage, that the Bruins weren't going to get beat.
Lucic waits, fires and scores!
Everybody thought that, okay, we got this game.
It is 3-0 Boston.
The Philadelphia Flyers become the 6th team to force a 7th game after falling behind 3 games to none.
To that point, only 2 teams had come back from 3-0 deficits. 42 Leafs, 75 Islanders. They were the patron saint of lost causes.
You know that in history this has not happened very often. You're fully aware of it.
The Bruins and the Flyers deadlocked at 3 games apiece in this seesaw series.
Back on home ice, the Bruins jumped on the Flyers early with 2 power play goals. Then, Milan Lucic sent the TD Garden crowd into a frenzy.
Lucic waits, fires and scores!
The Boston Bruins have come out and absolutely shattered the Flyers here early on.
Being up 3-0 in the Game 7, yeah, probably everybody thought that, okay, we got this game.
The Flyers are taking a timeout here.
Peter Laviolette, the Flyers coach, calls a timeout. And sometimes timeouts work and sometimes they don't. And this one did.
Everybody was kind of panicking and everything, so timeout, and Lavi said, guys, let's get 1 goal before the first period ends, and then we're back in the game.
Van Riemsdyk, curl and drag, score!
After James Van Riemsdyk got Philly on the board, Scott Hartnell scored to bring the Flyers within 1 goal early in the second period. Just under 6 minutes later, Boston was left in shock.
Briere tries to stop it, score! Danny Briere and the Flyers have tied it at 3.
After they come back from 3-0 down in the series and get 3-0 down in Game 7, you start to think to yourself, okay, hockey gods, I get it. It's the 3-0 comeback series.
Now we're in the third period, and the Bruins take a penalty.
They were whistled for too many men on the ice.
If you look at the history of the Boston Bruins, you need to summarize it in 3 words. Too many men.
31 years earlier, in another Game 7, the Bruins were 74 seconds away from a trip to the Cup final when they were called for too many men against the Canadiens.
Boston 4, Montreal 3. He gets it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
Guy Lafleur made the 79 Bruins pay the price. In 2010, it was Simon Gagne's turn.
Mike Richards through the seam, deflected stop. Gagne! He scores!
And the Bruins down by 1.
Yeah, he scored and made it 4-3 for Flyers and over. And yeah, very, very disappointing. Very disappointing.
This improbable, incredible comeback is complete. History made in Boston tonight. They are the 3rd team in NHL history to come from behind after trailing a series 3-0.
It felt like we won the Stanley Cup. We were almost giddy.
As heartbreaking and disappointing as it is for anybody who follows the Boston Bruins.
They were completely embarrassed. The coach was embarrassed. There was no answering to this.
The bottom line is we had a 3-0 lead in the series. We had a 3-0 lead tonight, and we blew both.
While the Bruins season was over, the Flyers' improbable playoff run carried them to the Stanley Cup final, where they would fall short to the Blackhawks.
Though they don't get their names on the cup, they get their names forever as this great comeback team that just wouldn't quit and defied all sorts of odds against what turned out to be a really, really good Boston Bruin team.
A good Bruins team that was looking for revenge when they met the Flyers the following season in the 2011 Eastern Conference semifinal.
2011, the Bruins were just not going to be denied.
You know, there's definitely an extra chip on the shoulder for the guys in the locker room. You know, you could feel it, you could hear it in the guys' words.
Now Krejci with a drive. Well, the Bruins win Game 2 in overtime here in Philadelphia.
After David Krejci exercised his 2010 demons in Game 2, a 5-1 rout in Game 3 put the Bruins in position again to sweep the Flyers.
Fool me once, shame on you. The old cliche. They weren't going to go down that road again.
We knew from previous years that we are not going to take it lightly, and we won't take a foot off the gas until the series is over.
Here's Lucic charging in, he scored!
There would be no historic comeback this time for the Flyers.
It's obviously something we're thinking about and we wanted to believe, but we just couldn't do it.
No comeback this time around. The Bruins sweep the Flyers out of the playoffs.
The lesson from their defeat a year earlier to the Flyers had been learned. 5 weeks later, Zdeno Chara and the Bruins would hoist their first Stanley Cup in 39 years. A reminder of the glorious decade of the 1970s when big and bad met Broad Street.
The Flyers and Bruins, there was no doubt if you threw the gauntlet down, somebody was going to answer. It was knuckles to knuckles. It was will to will. It was beautiful in its brutal elegance.